Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Fearless Podcast, a show dedicated to all things related to fear, anxiety, and general mental well-being. I'm your host, Zack. And on this week's episode, I'm actually going to be sharing a blog post that I recently wrote and we published on the Mountain Valley website this week. The blog is about a personal experience that I went through about 9 years ago. And it is an experience that was life-changing for me and is a lot of the reason why I'm sitting here today in this office on our campus in Plainfield, New Hampshire, doing the work that I do. I'll say before we hop in, just a little bit of a trigger warning. The blog and what I'm going to share today is a rather vulnerable and raw expression of something that I experienced, and it has to do with the topics of suicide and self-harm. And so just in case this is going to be incredibly triggering for anybody, please make sure you're in a safe space and have the supports that you need to be able to digest this. Of course, 988 is always available if you are really struggling and need to talk. The reason I want to share this on this platform is because I really just kind of want to get this story out there. As we close out the month of May, I'm recording this on May 29th. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and although I think we're doing an incredible job in our society nowadays supporting and creating conversations and spaces for conversations around mental health, there's always more we can do. And if I've learned anything through my time at Mountain Valley and through my time in this field, the sharing of a story can be incredibly powerful. And so we encourage all of our residents to share their stories when they're here at Mountain Valley. And although this isn't my full story, it's a big part of it. And so I figured I would share mine. Before we hop in, a quick shout out to our sponsor, which is Mountain Valley Treatment Center. We're a nonprofit residential treatment program located in Plainfield, New Hampshire, focusing on serving adolescents and young adults ages 13 to 20 who are struggling with anxiety, OCD, and related disorders. So if this podcast resonates with you, if any of the other material that we put out there resonates with you, I highly encourage you to check out our website at www.mountainvalleytreatment.org. All right, without further ado, here we go. This is my first time reading it aloud. I wrote it, but it's my first time reading it aloud, and I do much better when I read off paper than off a screen. So it was May 26, 2017, and I was home for Memorial Day on a much-needed long break from graduate school. As was typical when I came home, I was working on plans to see my high school friends. I come from a small town in Massachusetts with a very tight-knit community. I know that for many people, high school friendships can fade over the years, but in our town and in my friend group, it is common for these relationships to last a lifetime. Even when long gaps of time pass between seeing one another, once we're reunited, it feels as if nothing has changed. My friends and I were particularly close. We'd all played football together at our local high school. Our football program was, and still is, one of the best public schools in Massachusetts. I don't share this to brag. I share it because it gives context to the experiences we shared and to the foundation of what became an unbreakable bond. Weightlifting sessions at 6 a.m. in the morning, long conditioning sessions in the hot summer sun, sleepaway camp in the hills of the Berkshire Mountains, and fortunately for us, many Friday night wins, league championships, and a coveted state championship trophy. Through the hard work, the wins, and the losses, whether we knew it at the time or not, we were developing a deep emotional connection with one another. We supported each other at our lowest, celebrated each other at our highest, and above all else, believed in one another and stood behind one another no matter what the game of life threw at us. That bond, built by pushing ourselves to our limits alongside one another and in service of something bigger than ourselves, became the foundation for friendships that would last a lifetime. So anytime I was home, one of the first things I tried to schedule was time with my friends. Although we were deeply committed to one another, as with most busy young men in their 20s, it was hard to get the schedules aligned. I remember trying to organize dinner plans in our group chat. Some of us were available, some were not, and some were not responding. One of my friends was especially insistent that we meet up that night. I remember thinking, wouldn't it just be better to wait until we can all get together? But he said he was going to the local Irish pub in the center of town with his girlfriend, and he expected us to meet him there. Although I was not sure if any of my other friends would make it, I hopped in my car and headed downtown. I remember arriving at the restaurant and seeing him and his girlfriend sitting closely next to one another in a booth. They were chatting, laughing, and my friend was shining that big doofy grin everybody knew him by. I sat down with the two of them, and for a little while, it was just the three of us. At the time, I remember my mind drifting, wondering if any of my other buddies were going to show up. But looking back on it now, given how this story plays out, I will always be grateful for the first 30 minutes of that night when it was just me, my buddy, and his girlfriend. Eventually, another friend from our group showed up. We hung out, ate some food, had a few drinks, and caught up. My friend and I had made some plans to go to gym together in the morning. Even after all those years, we still had the itch to get together and push ourselves physically, and we still got the best out of ourselves when we did it together. We left the pub, we gave each other a big hug, and said, "I love you," which was a common practice in our friend group. And then we said, "I'll see you in the morning." On the morning of May 27th, 2017, I woke up early, gathered my stuff for the gym, hopped in my car, and headed out. I arrived on time, but my friend was not there yet. I didn't think twice about it. He was not exactly Mr. Punctuality. So I did what I usually did. I started stretching, started warming up, while keeping a close eye on the door and waiting for him to arrive. As I was lunging around the gym with my big overhead Beats headphones blaring, my phone began to ring. It was another friend from our friend group. At that point, I was pretty locked in and focused on my workout, and as far as I knew, this friend was not planning to join us, so I clicked ignore. The phone rang again. 2 calls in a row was unusual. Something was up. I remember answering the call with the sound still connected to my headphones through my Bluetooth. My friend was screaming, and I could not make out the words. I think I said something like, okay, slow down. Eventually, through the crying and screams, I heard him say, "You need to meet me at our friend's house, right now." I didn't think twice. I hung up the phone, I grabbed my belongings, and I hopped in my car. I remember speeding out of the parking lot and running a few red lights, with my mind focused solely on getting there as fast as I possibly could. My friends were in trouble, and they needed my help. While driving, I called my mom from the car. I told her I had received a distressing call from a friend and that I was headed over to meet them at my other friend's house and that I was not sure what was going on or when I would be home. At that time, one of our friends in our friend group, the friend's house who I was driving toward, had had some health issues going on, and I was worried that something bad had happened to him. When I arrived to my friend's house, I pulled down his long driveway and saw him and his mom standing in the front yard. At first, I felt immediate relief. As I mentioned, this was the friend who had some health issues, and to see him upright and seemingly okay put me at ease. I got out of my car and immediately asked, "Hey man, what's going on?" He did not know. He told me he also received a distressing call from our friend, but did not know what happened. Moments later, our friend came barreling down the driveway in his car. He got out, fell to his knees, and said, "Our friend is dead." I remember denial sweeping through me faster than a lightning bolt. What? No way. That can't be. We were just with him last night. He was going to meet me at the gym this morning. This has to be misinformation. But my friend in front of me was clearly distraught and in a tremendous amount of pain. We hugged him, we listened, and once he calmed down enough to talk, we began asking some more questions. And then he said it. He killed himself last night. Silence. My other friend and I paused and looked at each other. There was something about what he said that shifted us from questioning the news to reckoning with it. Still, we kept asking questions. Despite the pain and conviction in our friend's voice, it was still difficult to believe. But slowly, the gravity of the situation began to weigh in. We sat there in the driveway and deliberated for a while about what we should do. We decided that the three of us should drive over to our friend's house to check in and to see what actually happened. It almost felt like we had to see it for ourselves. I remember the three of us packing into my friend's little sedan. We pulled out of his driveway, and when we got about a mile down the road, it all started to really hit me. I felt anger and rage surge through my body. Through tears and a hoarse yell, I said to my friends in the car, "Don't you ever do this. If you ever need anything, you just call, okay? Just call." My friends just continued to shed tears of their own as we continued down the road to my friend's house. Our friend who had passed away lived only a few miles away, and before we knew it, we were pulling into his driveway. There were more cars there than usual, and one of his sisters was on the front porch talking to someone. We parked, opened the door, and then slowly started approaching the house. His sister saw us, began crying, and came over to greet us with a hug. It was real. It had happened. My friend, who had been smiling, laughing, and hugging me less than 12 hours ago, was gone. He had taken his own life. As I sit here and write this on May 2026, 9 years after my buddy's passing, I'm putting written words to the memory of this day for the first time. Each year, when this anniversary comes up, I try to lean into the emotion that this day holds and do something in his memory to make meaning of his passing. In past years, I've typically gone out into the woods to reflect and be close to my friend. Solitude in nature is where I feel closest to his presence. In addition to that, I will usually post something on social media as a gentle reminder of a great life that was lived, the great loss we all experienced, and what we can all do each day to honor that loss by living our own lives to the fullest. Although I still plan to go outside and be with him over the course of the next day, this year I thought I would write a blog post and reflect on this event in my life, the lessons I learned, and how I see those lessons overlapping with some of the work that we do here at Mountain Valley. Fear. At the time, I do not think I would have ever looked at this event, my own experience, or the presumed experience of my friend through the lens of fear and anxiety. But now, from where I stand, I cannot help but see it in that way. There was the fear he must have been feeling. Although we will never know for sure what he was experiencing, he was clearly struggling on a deep level and felt like he could not let anyone know. His best friends did not know, his girlfriend did not know, and his family did not know. For years, I struggled with ruminating over what my friends and I could have done differently to make him feel more comfortable coming forward. Was it our macho bro culture that kept him from feeling like he could be vulnerable? Did we make jokes or comments at times that made him think it was unsafe to share these things? Having worked in the mental health field now for almost a decade, I've come to accept that while there will always be things we wish we had seen or done differently, we cannot fully know or control the fear, pain, and inner world another person is carrying. Every day I work with young people who are deeply afraid of what others think of them, even while they're surrounded by people who love, support, and accept them. That does not mean that their environment does not matter. It does. The people around us can provide safety, reassurance, compassion, and support. But fear often lives beneath the surface, rooted in the private places of our minds, in the stories we tell ourselves about who we are, whether we're enough, and whether we are safe to be truly known. Others can help create the conditions for healing, but they cannot do the healing for us. At some point, each of us has to begin to bring those fears into the light. I also think about the fear my friends and I faced that day. I think about our decision to hop in the car and drive over to our friend's family's house, knowing that some tragedy may have just taken place. We did not blink, we did not think twice, and it was incredible how brave we can be in the face of uncertainty when it involves something or someone that we deeply value. Lastly, I think about the subsequent fear that I, and many of us who went through that experience, have lived with since that day. For me, it was my first time really confronting death. I had lost people I knew, but no one I was really that close with. It was the first time I was forced to come to grips with my own mortality and the mortality of the people that I love. Although that may sound morbid, this has also been one of the most tremendous gifts I've ever been given. Because I've learned that if you lean into that fear far enough, you may find yourself standing in love and in gratitude. Yes, I'm afraid of losing my life, Yes, I'm afraid of losing those close to me. But because of that, I take more time to appreciate the subtle beauties of the people, places, and things that make up my day-to-day experience. This was the first time that I ever realized that fear, although unpleasant to feel and often unruly in the mind, can also be a catalyst for recognizing and reveling in what matters most. And in many ways, the connection between fear, values, and meaningful living is at the heart of the work that we do at Mountain Valley. Making meaning of struggle. The idea that fear can help us identify and lean into our values is connected to something bigger, something we see every day in our work here at Mountain Valley. Life's hardest moments can sometimes be part of life's greatest and most meaningful growth. In the moment of struggle, no one wants to hear that one day this pain will become the start of something beautiful. In fact, when others try to point that out too soon, it can feel obnoxious, dismissive, and out of touch. But with time, space, and deep reflection, we may begin to see how pain can shape us in meaningful ways. None of that makes the loss any easier. None of that makes his death make any sense. But losing my friend in this way became a part of what ignited my passion for entering the mental health field. That passion led me to take a job at a psychiatric hospital during the end of my graduate school years. It was during that job that I came across the Occupational Therapy Mental Health Fellowship program at UNC. At UNC, I trained alongside some of the best mental health OTs in the country, and I met a beautiful young colleague who I am now lucky enough to call my wife. My work at UNC inspired me to seek out more holistic nature-based settings for healing, and it eventually led me to Mountain Valley. And now, as I sit here today typing these words, I have an incredible job at a tremendous institution with a beautiful wife, 2 loving kids, and a wonderful home in the forests of Vermont. Do I wish my friend was still alive? Of course I do. Do I wish my friend had been at my wedding? Of course I do. Do I wish I had one more uncle who could have loved them more than anything? Of course I do. But I can honestly say that I do not know where I would be or what I would be doing if this event had never happened in my life. All this is to say, we never know the ripple effects that a moment of struggle and immense pain may have down the line. It's hard to judge the meaning of a chapter when you're deep in the throes of the events that are unfolding within it. But if you keep reading and you allow the story to continue to play itself out, you may be surprised by the meaningful role that dark chapter played in the arc of the story. You may be surprised by the role that chapter played in the development of the main character. And maybe, just maybe, you'll look back on that chapter with more appreciation for the role that it played in getting the story to where it is now. For our youth and families at Mountain Valley, many are deep in the chapter of struggle. And for many of you reading this, you may be too. But as we close out May, Mental Health Awareness Month, I encourage everyone to keep doing one thing. Pick up the pen of your life and just keep writing. You never know where the story may lead. Thank you guys for listening, reading if you read it, bearing with me as I work through some emotions, reading that out loud for the first time. I hope what I shared didn't come across in the wrong way. I hope that people don't walk away feeling like pain is power and therefore it was a good thing that my friend passed away. In no world do I think that it was a good thing that my friend was lost, that the way he was lost, and that his family, my family of friends, and everybody who knew him experienced the pain that they had to experience. But what I am trying to encourage people is to have an open mind and to understand that we never know when something we've been through is going to become of service. And I can't tell you the amount of kids that have sat right here on this couch in my office at Mountain Valley, where this story and this experience that I went through with my friend was able to be used in a way that catalyzed their own healing and their own growth. And for the one life that I lost, one of the greatest lives I've ever known, it's hard for me to quantify the amount of lives that I might have saved. And so we don't have a lot of control over the things that happen to us. But we have all the control over how we respond. And it's not like sitting down and writing a book where you get to control every paragraph and every book and every verse and every chapter. It's almost like there's a ghostwriter that sometimes is inserting certain events in the story. It's more like Mad Libs, and you kind of have to adjust and write on the fly and take some of the events that are being thrown at you and find a way to weave it into the story that you want to create. But never forget that you have agency and you have the ability to help author and usher the story in the direction in which you want it to go. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in to another episode. I hope that this resonates with some people. And again, the purpose of me sharing this is just, I hope I've seen this story have an impact on a lot of people. And I hope that by sharing it, both in the blog and on this podcast episode, it continues to do just that. Thank you all so much. I look forward to talking to you next week.